So so basically you're going to look at the rubric and you're going to go, okay, does it have that or doesn't it? So that's a single point rubric is pretty nice because to me it's like a criteria for success. And then we see if we actually got it. So you can like check yourself and go, okay, do I have three standards? Or two if I'm history and social science. Then that's what I would have. Okay. I'm sorry. Or two if I'm English or world language or things like that. Okay. Okay, Parker, did you remember?
Yes, sorry.
That's
For
okay.
your single point rubric, is th for how the points work, I guess, is meeting requirements the like goal, or is our goal to get full credit to be exceeding?
Nope, your goal to get an A is to meet.
Okay.
To get A plus, it would be to exceed. So but an A would be that. The what I like about the single point rubric is like I want to acknowledge when kids go above and beyond, maybe even give them extra credit. Like, wow, you went way above. But I'm like, if you met the requirements that I'm asking you to do, then that should be A work, right? Um, so that just depends on you as a person. But like the other rubrics that we've used in the past, like the 4 point rubrics, it's like what I didn't like about the 4 point rubrics as a teacher is that I would have students and say to me, "What's passing?" And so I would say, "Okay, well, a two is a D." And that would be passing to them. And so that's all they'd try for. Like they would just look at that and try for that. So this way, I'm able to like have somebody look at their stuff, see if they're meeting those standards the best that they can. And and that way I and then a lot of times like with a single point rubric, I'll say like even in your guys' final, I'll be honest with you. Like if you didn't say have a text set and I ask for a text set in there, then I would say, okay, I want you to go back and get a text set and send it back in to me because then I'm going to grade it. So that's how much this is more for me personally as a teacher. I want you to learn this. I'm not concerned about you guys. I want you to learn it. So I'm going to say, okay, that's why I have you guys talk to me through your unit because it's a learning experience and I want to make sure that you learned it.
So
So,
it's a little bit more similar to like a pass fail kind of
yes, it is actually.
situation.
Like I give mostly A's, and the only reason I don't give mostly A's is if I said in like one, if you didn't show up for your final, which I've had people not do that, and two, if you just like if I said you really need to fix this, and then they never went back and fixed it, then I can't give them the A that I want to give them. Okay, so but yes, it is kind of like a pass fail thing. So, Bianca, you had your hand up.
Um, we're presenting this to you, right? Okay.
Yeah, I'll explain that in a little bit. I can explain it now. So all I do is I will have you turn it into me the day before your uh that you're presenting to me, and then I'll have like three questions. I'll have looked through it and have three questions for you, and they might be different for you than they would be for any other people, and usually they're just like, so how do you want students to process this, or what did you want them to take away from this class lesson, or things like that. It's mostly so I understand exactly where you're coming from with the unit. And so what I do is I put three people in a half-hour slot. So each person, you have to listen to two other people. So the whole class doesn't have to listen to everybody because I know how like horribly awful that can be to sit through like hours and hours and hours of presentations. So I just have you listen to two other people and answer questions and kind of look at how other people did theirs. And then that's your final, and you are done. So, unless I tell you, like, I really need you to go back and add this or do this, and then you can turn it in again and do that. So, does that make sense? Okay. All right. Any other questions before I move on? Jordan.
I just wanted to double check. if we're in block schedule, does 10 days of lessons equal 5 lesson plans?
The 10 days of lessons would be, yeah, for you, like you need to think of a block as two of the days. So days 1 and 2 would be your first block, days 3 and 4 would be your second block. Because really, I would love to teach people how to, well, and I'm sure you guys are great at it, but like I worked at Roosevelt for years where the block schedule was almost 2 hours, and like teachers would teach basically for the first hour of the block, and then they would let students do whatever they wanted for the second hour of the block, and that's not how we should teach. That's like a huge waste of instructional minutes. So really, if you have a block, you're teaching 2 lessons in one block.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's what I was
Okay,
thinking. I was like, there's a bunch.
yeah, right. Tyler.
I just wanted to confirm. So, like the schools I'm at, it's block days only Wednesday, Thursdays. So I could have 1 week like of lesson plans, even though I technically see my like a one class for 4 of the days. Because
Yeah,
that
I
block
want you to think
two.
of it as 10 lessons, and a block would be 2 lessons.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the other thing about that, you guys, is some of your units it's not possible to finish them in 2 weeks, right? But and so you could write down, like there's a couple things you could do. You could just do nothing, because that's the only requirement I have for you is 10 days. But if it's something that you want to go back to, you could think about what your topic was for the next however long that unit is, and just type it in without all of the stuff, just so you have it. Because I want this to actually be something that you would maybe use at some point in your teaching. So, but you only have to have 10 days. It might take you much longer to teach that, but I don't want it to be any less than 10 days. Okay. Elena and then Parker.
Question. Okay, so for art, we work on stuff for a really long time. So, like, for my unit plan, I have 3 lessons. The one that takes the longest is when we create in our studio time. Like how would you suggest I go about that for the 10 days?
That's thank you so much for asking that, because I have this there's kind of the same issue with art and with ag sometimes. Like when you get into ag, a lot of it's work time or doing things and stuff like that. So even in art, so tell me if I'm wrong, but in art, what I would assume is like you have a lesson and then they do some practice on it, and then maybe they have a whole day that they're going to practice, but you still might get up and have a mini lesson of some sort that you kind of go over certain things or something like that. So you could actually like make some mini lessons too, and then just say that it's work time. So is that correct, that you would do mini lessons or go around and like help individuals with or groups with mini lessons or something like that?
I think like in the way that I teach, I do one-on-ones basically like my whole class period when we're doing studio time. So I would probably be more like one-on-ones, like helping them with specifics instead of it being, and I may like teach the whole class, like if someone comes up with something interesting that could be applicable to everybody, but generally I'm just doing like formative assessments like all day, and I'm just like helping people usually.
Right. So that happens a lot in art. What I would say is, like, say you're teaching something and it's going to take 3 weeks, what would your lessons be in those? I don't know. Do you ever do something that takes 3 weeks? Yeah. So just don't think of your studio time as a lesson day. Think of your studio time as, so think of the lessons that you would teach even if it was a longer unit. Does that make sense? So like if there's 10 lessons to teach something, then what are those 10 lessons? Or one might be a mini lesson or something like that. But don't say like today's a studio day. Don't think of it as days. Think of it as like these are the lessons that I need to get to teach to teach this particular thing, and the studio time would be inserted like, okay, a day of studio time in between these two lessons, and a day of or one lesson, and a day of studio time after this lesson. And does that make sense to you?
Yes, and then also I'm on a block schedule, so it's just like extra
Yeah.
complicated.
Just what I would do, Elena, is like say, okay, I'm teaching, tell me something you're teaching.
I'm teaching mask making through the concept of identity.
Okay, so what lessons do I need to have, the students need to have to get that whole mask making thing done and the all the identity? And just think of those 10 lessons. Don't put in the time that they're going to practice it. Does that make sense? Okay. And if it doesn't equal 10, but it would definitely be a 2-week unit, then but I just want you to basically think of what are the lessons, like this is my goal. What are the lessons I'm going to need to teach them along the way to get there, and not think of the practice time as a day. So think of it as lessons and not as days for you. Does that help? Okay. Can I help you, Talon? Other art people.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not in a block schedule, but you know, the new school we might be at might be a block schedule or not. I think a block schedule helps in art because let's say we could use our text set for the second hour, like somebody mentioned if we could use a video link for our text set, we can, right? Because
Yes, videos are tech. Go back to our text sets. Video
Yeah,
text
already done. Mhm.
is anything that we're learning from. So it can be a video, it can be an article, it can be a podcast, it can be, those are all texts.
Yeah,
It could be lots of different things. So and what I always require of a text set is that at least one is like a written article or something like that. Okay. So yes. All right, Parker and then Jose.
I wanted to ask, so I'm also in like the block group of like trying to transcribe how I normally think for block to a normal schedule. Is it okay? Like I wrote out like my rough like draft for the stage 3 part, and I was like, I listed out like the topic that I would cover, and then the activity that would be at the end of that like day 1 lesson. But then generally that activity is going to bleed over to the next day because if it was a block, it would be all one day. Does that
Yes.
kind of make sense? And so is it okay to be like, here is the topic, and then here's the activity, and then that activity is going to bleed into the next day? And then
So what I want you to do is think of it the same way I just told Art. Think of it not as block as time, but as these are the lessons I need to teach, and these are the activities of engagement, and this is how I'm going to check for understanding. That might take 2 days or one block.
Mhm.
Is that
No,
so?
so I'm just thinking. So what I'm saying works then is just like that.
Yes.
It's 10 days because it's like basically I have like 5 lessons that I
Yeah.
would teach. It's just those 5 lessons would take 2 days each.
Okay. Yep. So I'm not going to be super picky about that, you guys, because your contents are all different. Basically, what I like that last thing to be actually is kind what the way I designed it is so that it would be like if you had a lesson plan book, you were writing in that lesson plan book, today's objective is today's topic is today's objective is, and this is how I'm going to engage my students, because technically you're not going to write a full-on lesson plan for every lesson you teach next year, right? You don't have time for that. So, but you need to think of the standards you're teaching to the topic that you're teaching, what your objective is for the day. Those are the things you would put in a lesson plan book. So that's why I didn't have you create lessons for that, because I know because I've been a teacher for a long time that you're not going to write a full-on lesson plan for every single day that you teach. But you should have a lesson plan book that says, okay, this is the plan for the day, this is the objective I'm going to give students, this is how I'm going to check for understanding, and this is an activity that I'm going to do with it. So that's what this whole thing here is designed for, to be like what you might jot down in a lesson plan book. Does that make sense to you? Okay, nobody said no, so I'm going to assume that that's a yes. Okay, all right, Jose.
Yeah, so I just had two questions. So one was just concerning the text set. I'm looking at the template and everything. Where exactly do you want us to put that the text set? Like, do you want us to
Well,
list like what we're
if you
using?
look at this example, where did I put it in this example? Oh. Oh. I guess I didn't put it in here. I thought I did. Um. Let me see. Let me keep going. Maybe I put it down here. Now, I did put a text set in here, but I guess I didn't save it. So
Yeah, because that was my
you
only
can what
confusion. I was like, where do you want
yeah.
that?
So I do want a text set. There's two ways you can do it. You can say this is my text set. What I had, and if I have a chance, I'll find it. What I had was these are my text sets, and I'm going to use this text on day 2 and day 4. I'm going to use, kind of thing. But
Mhm.
what would be the best for you is like on day 1, here's one of my text set. I'm going to highlight my text set here. That's text 1. You only have to have 3 texts. So you could say strategies for engagement, using text blank 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 from my text set and da da da. Okay, so
Okay.
your text set can
So
be
so
there.
it's mainly like it would be helpful if we just kind of highlight it where we're using it. That way you could just
Yes, I
notify
would
what we're doing.
highlight it. Definitely highlight your text set. Just a second, you guys.
Oh.
Sorry, I got another cold this week, and so I have to. Okay, Jack.
Oh, could I still ask one more question? Sorry.
Yes, and then Jack can go.
Yeah. So my was just on part, I think it was part 3. Or let me look at the example that you had. The where you have like the role thing.
Yes.
It's like the performance task goal, I mean. For that part, is that because on my whole project, I guess I'm doing it on an essay. So would I do this whole thing based off like that essay at the very end, like the summative assessment?
Yeah, but let's talk about that, because one of the things I said last week, I hope I said it to you, was if you're in English, I want you to think about maybe having a different type of performance task than an essay, because that's most what English uses almost all of the time. And so I kind of would like you to think outside of the box and maybe do something a little bit different.
Could it be
So
like a Socratic seminar or something like that?
you could do a Socratic seminar where they write something at the end of it. You could do like I'm going to create a brochure about, I don't know what you're doing, but a novel about this novel, so that I could like encourage people to come and hear me talk about it or something like that. I mean, it could be, or a poster project that they use quotes and pull things out that are important about a certain theme in the project, or they have a symbol project. It depends on what your standard is, but like making sure that the what your standards are, making sure that the performance task aligns to the standards, but is maybe something different than an essay, just because. And the only reason I say that, Jose, is because we always, like in Fresno Unified, we use why can't I ever remember the name of the book that you guys use to teach through? Springboard. So you use Springboard. Are you in Fresno Unified? I can't remember.
No.
You're in Tulare.
Yes.
Yeah. So Fresno Unified uses Springboard, and Springboard the ending thing in Springboard is always 100% of the time an essay. So kids get tired of that and they get to where they hate writing essays. So like we're always thinking about different ways that we can engage them and make them. So a Socratic seminar would be great where they have to like do some research and maybe share that research in a Socratic format or something like that, or a presentation or something along those lines. So I
Okay, yeah,
want you
sounds
to
good.
maybe,
Thank you.
okay, cool. All right, Jack. Just one text set with 3 texts in it. Yeah. And I think that's actually on the rubric, but I don't have my rubric up right now. So, okay. We're gonna go back. Are you guys going somewhere? Oh, it's behind the couch. Are you looking for the tablet?
Like,
Oh. Uh-huh. Yes. So just to remind you about a text set, and I'll send an article out too. A text set is something that enhances what it is you're doing, and it can be any type of text. So and text can be a video, a podcast, a picture. It can that they're analyzing. It can be all kinds of things like that. So, but I do ask that one of them be some type of written article text, that because of the literacy and how our kids can't read very well, I want to make sure that we do that. Okay. Virginia,
Just
you're
a
welcome.
if for on our final date we are missing something or it's not up to par, you will let us know and we will get a chance to fix it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's go back to this. We have more. Okay. You know what, you guys, I'm gonna hold off on the questions really quickly because I might answer them as I go through, but write it down. So in case you don't get the answer, I can answer it later because I want to get through this so that you can like go through somebody else's, uh, unit with them and kind of look at the rubric. So I just need to find my rubric here. There it is. Okay. So we have the essential question is the next part of the rubric. And basically we're asking, let me get this over here a little bit. Come on. So the essential question says, there are 2 to 3 essential questions and they are thought-provoking, a minimum of 5. There's a maximum of 5. They have more than one correct answer and require inquiry rather than recall. So these are, I'm writing out what an essential question is. So there's a typo in there, but I just can't fix it right now. Oh, stupid thing. Hold on. I have a split screen and I can't get my thing to go over. There we go. Okay, here we go. There are 2 to 3 essential ESSENTIAL questions. I guess it isn't. And they are thought-provoking. There's a maximum of 5. They have more than one correct answer and require inquiry rather than recall. They have great potential for engaging students and can guide teaching and learning. So on this one, the essential questions were, to what extent did Reconstruction bring freedom and equality to formerly enslaved people? How did Reconstruction reshape the relationship between the federal government and the states? And what were the successes and failures of Reconstruction? And how do we know what happened in the past? And why do different sources tell different stories? So there was 1, 2, 3, 4. So they didn't go past the 5, but you have to have at least 2 to 3. So, and you guys, what the big question I'm going to be looking for, and I think I've said this to you before, is do your essential questions align to the standards and what you want students to know and be able to do? So all the stuff I'm going to be looking for alignment. Like if you do a performance task and it's a great performance task, but it doesn't show me that students met the standards, then I'm not gonna like your performance task. Maybe it's a great performance task, but I'm like, hey, how does this align with the standards? So that's why I want to see it before I meet with you, because I want to know that like this assessment is showing me that they know how to meet the standards. Okay. All right. Knowledge and skills. The knowledge and skills and the acquisition come directly from the standards, nouns, and verbs. Already talked about that last week and the week before, that we get all of our knowledge are the nouns of the standards and the skills are the verbs of the standards. So in these standards, they talk about the amendments, they talk about these different laws, the key figures and the compromise, and then they analyze, explain, evaluate. And if we look at the standard here, the standards say analyze the character of the lasting consequences. They have to have primary and secondary sources. So they expanded on what those primary sources and secondary sources are, but they're still talking about those things. Talon, did you have a question?
You answered it. I think I was just wondering if the it was like a expanded version of the standards, right?
It is. So basically we take this, what we do with standards is we take the standards and then we add like the reconstruction period to that standard. And so if it says primary source, it's going to tell me maybe like they know this primary source. So they did Black Codes and Jim Crow laws as the primary source. And that's the noun was primary source. But then they tell me what it is in there. So they're just expanding what that is from the standard. Okay, I don't want just the nouns and the verbs. So I want what the nouns and verbs are asking. So that they're asking, the verbs are asking to analyze and summarize primary and secondary sources to explain cause and effect. Because if you just had in there analyze, explain, evaluate, and construct, then I'm like, what are you analyzing? What are you constructing? What are you evaluating? So you need to put that in there. So that's that breakdown of standards. And it is what I showed you, like ChatGPT is really good at that. And I'm encouraging you guys to use ChatGPT because I think it's an amazing tool. And I don't know, you probably don't have very many professors that encourage you to use ChatGPT, but I am going to encourage you because I think if I've found it to be an incredible tool, but you still have to know your stuff. You can't just do it. You know, that's what I like about it. All right. So the next one is the performance task. The performance task clearly provides a valid measurement and targeted understanding. Students are required to demonstrate the desired understandings to successfully complete the task. So if you see the wordings in there are really, again, it's aligned to what I want them to understand. It's aligned to the standards. It's all clear. Like it's a valid measurement of the standards. Okay, so if I want students to know, like how, if I'm an English teacher and I want students to know how symbolism and figurative language help a author to give meaning to a text, and there's nothing about symbolism and imagery and in the performance task, then somehow I've missed the mark here, right? I did a performance task where they had to create a brochure and give me comprehensive understanding of a text. That doesn't align to the standards. So I want it to align to the standards. Is that confusing to you guys at all? So look at, there's more for the performance task. So it also says performance task. The task calls for applying the targeted understanding. Okay. Students develop actual products and performances for an identified audience. And then other evidence, we talked about this the other day, but I'll show you again on this thing. Let's see. So we have our performance task, which is in this form of goal, role, audience. And I just took this from the sheet that I gave you, and I can post that sheet again in a minute of all of these things, and you write it out. And then other evidence. See other evidence? You don't need to have a rubric here. Over here, I said on this one, I'm going to show you how to do a single point rubric for this goal role for your performance task. And here, where it says other, you don't need to have anything in this box. So you don't have to worry about that. But my other exit is exit tickets. Name one success and one failure of the reconstruction so far. This person that did this one went as far as telling me what the exit tickets are going to be. You don't have to do that. If you know what they're going to be, then do that. Quick rights. If you were a freedman in 1866, what would freedom mean to you? In your own words, what was the purpose of the freedmen's? So they had quick night rights and do nows and think, pair, share prompts and many reflections in their journals. So that was their other evidence. And we've talked about that, the difference between formative and summative assessment. These other evidences are formative assessment. The performance task is a summative assessment. All right. And then I'm just going to move on a little bit more because we're almost done. And then the learning plan. There are a minimum of 2 weeks worth of lessons, and the objectives are aligned to the transfer objectives of the overall unit standards. So again, alignment. The objectives, it's is right here about performance and it has this whole cool thing. So this was like a really lame that I didn't tell you about this. It tells all that, and then it gives an example of a performance task, and then it gives this sheet that you could write it out, but then it gives possible student roles and audiences. So you're an actor, you're a author, you're a celebrity, you're an inventor, you're a social worker, you're a taxi driver. So like you could come up with any kind of person that you're going to be, a nutritionist, a panelist. And then it has possible products. So if you want a written product, it could be an advertisement, a biography, a blog, an essay, a historical fiction, a lab report, a magazine article. If you want oral, they could do an audio tape of something. They could do a
Hola. ¿Mande? Estoy... Sí. Pues es el mismo grupo que She Went Over, ¿no? Está on Canvas, under announcements. Creo. Oh, no, no. Está in the email that she sent out. Yeah, it's like in Holland's boxes. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's super great. I think that's it. Basically, tenemos que tener two content standards. We don't need the literacy standard. Sí, tenemos que planear una unidad o simplemente usa la unidad que usaste para tu TSP. Yo también. No, Tomos, creo que dijo que al principio se podía hacer porque Tomos te ayudara, pues sí. Nomás que creo que una vez dijo que una estudiante ah, le dio todo el TSP. Sí, luego nada más cuando lo hacemos, nada más hay que mirar el grupo y ya. Sí, pero eso, ayer a las 5 de la tarde se me dio la clase. No, es separado. Creo que es un total de 510 horas, ¿no? 500. Pero, ¿y cuál es la última? ¿Dijo algo sobre la última, la fecha que podemos el último día ir a que cuente para horas? Ajá. Pero creo que te puedes quedar hasta 28, ¿no? Para todavía hacer horas. Hasta 16. mi coach me dijo el 28 de mayo. Yo no sé, yo creo que yo. Pues yo creo que depende del trabajo de la persona. A veces no depende de cuánto tiempo se usa ahí, pero más bien cómo enseñas tu trabajo y cómo te comportas en el salón y todo. Y si the one we had to submit, oh, sí, sí, anything that was due, que was for a grade, lo hice. Anything que era que optional, no lo hice. Sí, puso 3. No, está bien, no está difícil. No creo, fue me dijo mi coach que el 28. Entonces, ahí te lo mandamos. Yeah, she said. Son 500. Yeah. ¿Ah? Como la segunda semana. ¿Mande? Cuando empezó el semestre. No, no fui unos días. Ah, eso lo dijo que se iba a pillar, pero I just sent another message.
Okay. All right. Hopefully, hopefully that helped. What questions might you have after doing that activity with your partner? Hey, Kobe.
So for me, some of my text sets are like demonstrations, but they have text at the bottom that actually gives a full description of how to like properly go through a workout. Would that classify as like
A text?
because there's not much that we do where in PE where we're actually reading a whole article.
Right. So it's actually like a picture of a workout or something like that. Okay. That's fine. I think one text would be good. Like, I don't know, like what is yours on?
So I'm doing mine on fitness and weight training.
Okay. So maybe you have an article that is like the importance of staying fit for your later years in life or something like that. So just something that, I mean, and it could be something that you just send home to them, or you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be you have to teach it, or I have this article, I want to highlight some of the important parts of it with them. It is going to be obviously different in PE, but I still would like you to have a text because some kids might want to go back and refer to that. So does that work for you? Okay, cool. All right, Talon and then Lawrence.
Yeah, we just had a question on the grasps.
Uh-huh.
So I understood it as sort of an outline to input into our like less, I guess, unit plan.
It's actually it's the grasp is actually the performance task.
That's right.
So the
Summative
goal,
assessment,
yeah, the summative assessment. So the goal, so your art, so what are you doing yours on?
a self-portraiture.
Okay, so like the goal is that you're going to like create a self portrait of yourself, and or you're gonna help somebody create like design a self portrait for someone else or something like that. Um,
So it's
your
breaking
perform
down.
yeah,
So,
so your performance task in art, I would say, is probably the finished product of
mhm,
what they're doing, right?
yes,
So maybe it's how they present it to, like it's the art, but also like how they present it to the class to explain who they are, or what it, or maybe they write about what it represents,
I see.
why they chose what they chose to put in their self-portrait to represent themselves. So um it's something that goes along like you've created the self-portrait, and so the performance task is to have an advertisement that you're going to share to somebody about the self-portrait, and you create an advertisement telling why you did what you did, what colors you chose, all of the different things that kind of help them do that. Does that help
Yeah,
you a little bit?
yes, that's clear. Thank you. And
All right.
ignore I did the other one wrong that I submitted last week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah, those you guys, all of the stuff that you've submitted before is just credit, no credit. It's like I just don't want you to. The reason I do stuff like that, and just as you as teachers, you'll understand this as you continue to teach, is I don't want people to put things off till the last minute. So I do checks checks of just do this, and I'm gonna give you credit if you tried it. I'm not gonna grade it necessarily for anything except for that you tried it. So, and I was a very much a credit, no credit grader a lot when I was an English teacher, because it was like I just didn't want people to procrastinate till the very end and then give me a piece of crap, basically. So, so don't worry about that if you turn something in before. Elena.
Question, do we need to do a summative assessment for each standard?
No, it's the summative assessment, which is the grasp, the performance task, should be like kind of like try to encompass as much as possible all the standards that you've done. So, And you know, no summative assessment is going to get every single standard, but like you're trying to hit it as much as possible. Does that help you? Okay, great. Lawrence.
Yeah, I was gonna ask something similar. So me and Serenia were like talking about this. Do we need to have like some kind of rubric or something for the
Yes.
performance task that
We'll
shows?
talk about basically what I'm asking you to do
Yeah.
for your rubric is exactly the rubric that I've created for you to get graded on this one. So it's called a single point rubric, and I'm going to give you some resources in a minute. But a single point rubric, the way I think of a single point rubric is kind of like you can brainstorm everything that you want in it and why you want it and how it aligns to the standards, and then you give it in a clear format of it needs to have this, it needs to have this. So like say I'm doing the art self-portrait, like it needs to have some color that represents you, is a symbolic of the color that represents you. It needs to have, you know, this certain type of artistic use of a pen, or I'm sorry, I'm not an artist, so but it needs to have, you know, full face. And so you're just kind of outlining everything that it needs to have and why it needs to have it, just like I did in this rubric that I've given you for this task. And then it's like exceeds and either and meets, and then so it does not meet is what you want, and then it exceeds. And it's kind of like a criteria for success, and it's a different type of rubric. So I'm going to give you some resources on a single point rubric. We were going to talk about it longer tonight, but we've kind of gone a little bit further. But I think my rubric kind of shows you exactly what a single point rubric is. And I want you to try it because I think I love it, because I don't want students to sit there and think about what they can do to like get the minimum grade in my class, right? I want them to think about how can I be successful on this project? And I want it to be something that they can go back to. Yes, I have 3 standards, or yes, I have 2 standards. Yes, I have this. Yes, I have that. Okay, I should be able to get an A on this unless I totally messed up, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So that's the rubric that I'm looking for your performance task. We'll talk a little bit more about that after I answer questions. Stephanie.
Hi, so I'm not sure if you answered it or just to clarify. So we do need a vision board.
Yes,
and that's
I haven't pulled one up, but I have one to show you in a minute. Yes, a vision board, and you can put that at the end of your unit, or you can turn it in separately. And we did have an assignment for vision boards. Let me pull one up real quick right now, because there was a lot of questions about that. So, see something. Okay, so here's an example. Essential questions. It gives like this is on Of Mice and Men. So it gives a book cover, it gives some pictures of Mice and Men. It has some information about history of mental disabilities. So different pictures. It has the essential questions. And I'll share this with you because it has the requirements. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to share this with you because I want to make sure that, like, I know that I've done this assignment, but I think it might be a different assignment for this class. But that's an example of a vision board. Let me see if I can find another one. And I will share the requirements, but the requirements are also on the rubric, but I'll share it like this. I just want to make sure that they match. I don't want to give you 2 separate things. So that will be on everything that I say that I'm going to share with you tonight. I will, before the end of the night, will be on your front page on Canvas. Okay. So I will do that before the end of the night. But let me see if I have anything else that I can share with you.
I thought this was our homework. Didn't
You assign
You
it?
did. I assigned like a rough draft of one. Yes.
Okay.
Before. Yes. So, but this is just what you're going to add to your, oh, here's some examples. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Yeah, these are from some of my old classes. So here's a To Kill a Mockingbird. This is from an old English methods class that I used to teach, but here's one. How to relate. So it has essential questions. It has stuff. This one probably doesn't have enough stuff in it. I'm not going to tell you how, but you kind of get under that. Why is it important for people and cultures to construct? So here's essential questions, Civil Rights Act. It talks about the civil rights movement, motherhood, discrimination, family love, some pictures of the civil rights. It's to draw your students into it. So I'll post some of these. Oh, this one is a good one. I remember this one. Is American Dream more likely to inspire or destroy? It's about the Great Gatsby. And it has a bunch of stuff on there. So that is not one. This one was on rhetoric and argument. And it talks about what rhetoric, this was an English class that I taught. Raisin in the Sun. That's the Of Mice and Men one that I just showed you. This is reading workshop. Wow. That was a little hard to read, but it has a lot on there. Essential questions. Why do you, I mean, I was a yearbook advisor forever, so like I always like this one like is too much for my eyes to handle. I don't know if you guys are like me. Like where do your eyes go? So like try to make it so that it's like appealing to the eyes. Like I would not mark you down for that, but I'm just saying like if you want your students to like hone in on stuff, this is like too much. To what extent has society already made your decisions for you? This one was on aims and ambitions. Oh, okay, on LGBTQ and all kinds of stuff with women. So here is like this one doesn't have an essential question, so it probably got marked down for them. It's on self-reflection. Oh, I like this one. It has it's on relationships, family, prejudice, identity. I think it's a book. They even have the standards and what they're doing and the point of view and some links. You can make it live so that students can put links on it. How do authors encourage readers to consider what is versus what should be? What is versus what should be? See the world more clearly. It's about writing and human experience. So this one's on Antigone. So do you get the idea a little bit? And so, but I'll make sure that you guys have a clear criteria with a clear example. I'll link the podcast that I had you listen to about it. But really, on the rubric, let me go back to the rubric. That's not it. I don't know where that rubric went. Let's see. Okay, on the rubric, what it says is the vision board. It captures what will be addressed in the unit. It identifies the essential questions. It has images that will draw the students in. Simply addresses the performance task. So somehow the performance task is addressed on there. Has a quote or two from important texts or resources you will be using. So if you just have that on there, you're fine. So it's right here on the rubric what I'm asking you to do. And then I'll post some different examples like that. Okay? Does that help everybody? Just give me a thumbs up so I can see. I know you guys are tired. I'm tired too. Okay, cool. All right. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Now, so this rubric is a great, well, I don't know if it's a great, but it's my example of a single point rubric. Okay. So I've been very clear about what it is exactly that I want you to do in this UBD unit. Okay. It goes right along with the whole unit, like every box in the UBD section is mentioned. And so it's the same thing. So when you do your performance task, you're going to say, okay, this, like maybe you do one for the goal. It shows the goal of, maybe one for the R, so maybe you make your rubric based on the grasps. However, but if you think of I want my this is what I want. Like I'm a teacher, this is what I want my students to have in their performance task, and I want it to be done. And then you have, it does not meet, and then you would explain it on that side, and then it does meet, and you would explain it on the other side. So rubrics, I think, are the best way to grade, one of the best ways to grade, because what it does is it takes all of the bias out of grading. Like you either have it or you don't have it. You either did it or you didn't do it, right? So and it really makes things really clear for students. And I'm a huge fan of, and other rubrics work as well. So you've used like a 4-point rubric or other kinds of rubrics, those are fine as well. I just happen to really like the single point rubric. And so that's what I want you to try and create for your performance task. And the thing about it is it makes it super clear for students, and I'm a real advocate of all students should always be taught the rubric. Okay. So that's why, so for today, I basically taught you the rubric. I went through it with a UBD unit with you guys, and then I had you break out in groups and go through it with your partners with the UBD units. So students should be really familiar with the rubric so they don't go, you didn't tell me I needed to have a performance task, or a text set. And I'm like, it's right here on the unit text set, stage 3. Okay. So it's right there. So I did tell you, right? So that, because we hear that from students all the time, right? You didn't tell us, you didn't do this. So, and one of the things I learned, it took me a long time to learn as a teacher, is students are always looking of how can I, just like you guys are, how can I do the best on this assignment that I can possibly do? And sometimes I really noticed that I wasn't clear. And so I've always tried, and I still might not be super clear, but I've always tried to be as possibly as clear as I can be for my students so that they can understand what is expected of them. Okay, so this is the rubric that I'm asking you to do for your performance task. Is everybody good with that? Thumbs up? Yes. Okay, cool. All right, so the last thing before you go tonight is I'm not done with it, but I'll show you what I've started for your signups. Right here. Right here. Okay, so this is gonna, and I will put this will be posted on your front page on by tonight. I'll have it posted. Okay. So you're gonna sign up to do your final, and you can also sign up to get some help on your unit. Okay. The blue boxes are the help for the unit. Okay. So if it's highlighted in blue, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to go, Miss Tompkins, Professor Tompkins is going to be online May 6th from 5:30 to 6. So I'm going to sign up there and show up so that I can get help on my unit. Okay. If nobody signed up from 5:30 to 6 on May 6th, then I'm not going to be online. Okay. The only reason I'm going to be online is somebody signed up and I'm going to be there for you. Okay. So you need to sign up, and actually, if more people want to sign up than there is 3 boxes, that's totally fine. My experience is that people don't necessarily always sign up that much. But if you see 3 people and you still want to be May 6th from 5:30 to 6, you can put your name in that box as well, and I will be there. Okay. Now, if you notice on May 7th from 5 to 5:30, that's highlighted yellow. Okay, that's for finals. So some people like, I'm done with my unit and I want to do my final and get it taken care of as soon as possible. Okay. So you can sign up for that day 5 to 5:30. And then if you sign up for that day, you're going to sign up your name. And I'm either the 7 p.m. class or I'm the 4:30 class. I wrote 4, but it's 4:30. Okay. And that's all I need. I need your first and last name and your that. So I know that that's when you're coming. Now, I'm not going to remind you guys that that's when you're coming. Okay. And I mentioned that I wanted you guys to have your units to me beforehand, but what I'm going to say, because that gets complicated, you can turn it in beforehand or you can turn it in that night. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay. If I can look at it beforehand, I haven't even put the assignment up. I'll put it up tonight. So you can turn it in whenever you're done. It just needs to be turned in before you show up online for me. Okay. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay. All right. And there's going to be a lot more yellow. The first of next week, I made it blue. So if you needed help, you can do that. If none of these work for you guys, like I have classes, I have things, I have all this stuff, I can't show up, just text me, tell me your name. I'll get online with you.